Afternoon and welcome to Stress Busters. Happy Labor Day to you. I do hope that whatever kind of work you do, I want to celebrate you, and I hope that you're taking time to celebrate yourself and to celebrate and honor the other people who do all the hard work that makes our life possible. So it's a very important holiday, and to all workers all over the world, I want to honor you. And I'm so glad that you've taken this time to join me. We're continuing our series on the science of happiness. I have some really exciting research that I want to share with you about what science has to teach us about how we can live happier lives. So stay tuned. You don't want to miss it. And our code word for today is the word together. Together. That's our code word. I'm going to show you in a few minutes what you can do to use that code word to win a prize. So stay tuned for that. Today we're talking about relationships and how relationships can contribute to our happiness and our well-being. So if you know someone who can use some more happiness in their life, please do send them a note, tag them in this video, share this video with them, invite them to join the conversation, because I'll be sharing some of the latest scientific research around how relationships contribute to our happiness. You'll have a chance, you can ask any questions that you might have, or they can ask questions, and I'll be able to respond to your questions live. So include as many people as you can think of who want to be happy or happier. So let me introduce myself to you. My name is Dr. Keisha Moore, and I am the founder of Life in Focus Coaching. I'd love to know who you are, and please do type your name in the box below. Let me know who you are, where you're coming from. I'd love to welcome you to our conversation today, and again, to answer any questions that you might have about how you can create a life in a career that you love. That's my focus, both in the work that I'm doing today and that I do through Life in Focus Coaching. All of our services and products are really around helping people to create lives and careers that they love. So stay tuned. Today we're going to be talking about how you can use relationships and deepen your relationships in a way that increases your happiness. So I did share a code word with you at the beginning of our session today, and I will tell you what you can do with that code word to win a very special prize that I've created just for you to help expand your happiness. So stay tuned, and I'll tell you how you can win that prize. But I'm really excited. I want to share this science with you. So I want to start by telling you some of the scientific research that helps us to understand how having quality relationships contributes to our individual levels of happiness and well-being. So we know, and there's a lot of studies on this, I'm not going to tell you all of them, but just some of my favorites that I pulled to the side to help you have confidence in the relationships, and the time that you're spending deepening your relationship is giving you so much more benefits than you probably even know. So in one study, they asked about 900 women in this study to list all of the things that they did yesterday. So you had a diary of this is what I was doing each hour of the day. And then they asked them to rate how positive they felt, like what are their positive emotions, how happy were they doing these various activities. And so from this research, they pulled out these top 5 things that are helping people, that help these women become happier. So this was the list in the order of the most happy. So the first was sex, the second was socializing, third, relaxing, fourth, praying, and 5, eating. So the top 2 things that these women were doing to make them happier were done with other people, in relationship with other people. And that's just one of the ways in which we know relationships really add so much to our lives. Now, one of the research assessments that we use often in positive psychology is the PERMA, and it measures how flourishing your life is, right? Like, are you living a life where you're really excited about life? Are you living up to your highest potential? Are you growing every day? And so the PERMA has 5 dimensions to it to assess how flourishing your life is. And one of those dimensions, the R in the PERMA, stands for relationships, because relationships is a core part, 1/5 of your level of happiness and flourishing. And so I'm going to share with you 3 questions taken from the PERMA that can give you some insight into how relationships contribute to your happiness. So one of the questions that we ask in the PERMA is these 3 statements, and you assess from how strongly you agree or disagree with this statement. So the first statement is, I feel connected to the people who I interact with regularly. So the people who you interact with on a daily basis, how connected do you feel to them? Strongly connected or weakly connected? And that has something to do with how flourishing your life is. The second statement on the PERMA is, I feel close to my loved ones. Are there people who you feel really close to, or do you feel kind of disconnected even from the people who are relatively close to you? And then the third is, during tough times, I know I have people that I can turn to for support. So how strongly would you agree with that statement? If you strongly agree with all 3 of those statements, it's very likely that your life is flourishing, that you have deep quality relationships, that you're happy, that you are setting goals and accomplishing your goals and knocking life out of the park. And if you haven't strongly agreed with those 3 statements, it's okay. There's room for growth. And today we're going to talk about what you can do to deepen those relationships, to expand your level of connection to other people who are around you. So we do know that people who have more friends are happier people. And it's not just having those friends, but it's actually regularly interacting with them. So we have a research study that shows us that if people who regularly interact with 10 or more of their friends report feeling happier, and they also live longer. That's right. So regularly interacting with your friends not only increases your happiness, it also improves your life expectancy. And that's because quality relationships improves our happiness and our physical health. And that's something that we haven't always really given credit to, the role of relationships in our physical health. But I wanted to share with you some of the research that I pulled around this. So one study shows us that people who have strong social ties are 50% less likely to die early. So people with strong relationships actually live longer, and that statistic is comparable to, it's better than quitting smoking. So people who quit smoking, they increase their life expectancy by 50%. Well, if you have strong social ties, you also increase your life expectancy by 50%. So that's a significant improvement in your physical health that comes from having strong social ties, that comes from having deep connections to other people. And it's better than exercising regularly, than the health benefits you get from exercising regularly and maintaining a healthy weight. So I'm not saying don't exercise or don't maintain a healthy weight. There's no reason why we can't do all of them. But oftentimes, we think about our physical health only in terms of, I have to get to the gym, I have to eat better. Well, part of improving your physical health is also, I need to call my friend. I have to go and spend time with my family, because connecting with people who we are in relationship to and building those relationships where we feel meaningful connections to them, we feel close to them, not just physically, but emotionally, that improves our health. And so that's something good that you can do for your heart today, to connect with people who you love and deepen your relationship. There was one study where they were actually priming people before they put them through a cardiovascular stress test, a heart stress test. And they would ask some people before they do the test to think about people that they have negative relationships with. So people they have a problem with, there's tension in the relationship, and then they would do the stress test and then take these psychological tests afterwards. And they had other people that they primed and asked them to think about people that you have good relationships with, positive relationships. Well, what do you think they found? The people who thought about the negative relationships before doing the stress test actually had more physical stress from the same test. So they reported feeling more threatened while they were going through the test. Their blood pressure was much higher while they were going through the test. And they also reported feeling less in control over their lives in the psychological assessment than the people who were thinking about good relationships that they have with people. So having good friends is actually good for your heart. It makes you feel less stressed and more in control of your life. And in another study where they had, 3,400 volunteers. So they measured their social relationships, and then they did this thing where they actually exposed them to a cold bacteria, the common cold. So what they were interested in is seeing what their relationship between how sociable someone was, how many relationships they had, and their immune system. So they found that the people who were more sociable, who had more friends, were less likely to get sick, even though they were exposed to this common cold virus, than the people who had less relationships. And it was a linear relationship. So the distance between 2 to 4 relationships was the same as 4 to 6 and 6 to 8. So having more friends, having better relationships with people actually did make your immune system function much better, and it made you much less likely to get sick. And that's because we know that the quality of the relationships that we have with people changes not just our physical body, but it changes how we perceive life. And so we perceive life as less challenging, as less stressful, as less difficult because we have good relationships. So you can think of good relationships almost like a boost to your immune system. It actually does make you physically stronger, and it makes you feel like I can handle whatever challenge is coming my way. So I love this study about people. They asked people to walk up this steep hill, and some people walked up the steep hill alone, and other people were in the condition where they walked up the steep hill with a friend. So the hill is the same. It's the absolute same hill. But they asked people when they got down from the hill, kind of how difficult was that activity, and how stressed did you feel? How challenging was it? And so the people who walked with a friend actually reported it as much less difficult. It was a less challenging activity, not because having a friend there made the hill actually physically less challenging, but because it made it feel like it was less challenging, and they felt more equipped to handle it, and it just went better. And you know what? That was true even in a subsequent study where they didn't have the friend walk with you, but they just asked you to think about a friend. Think about someone who you have a good relationship with as you're approaching this challenging activity, walking up this hill. And even in that condition where people were just thinking about their friend, they reported the hill being less challenging than those who walked up the hill not thinking about their friend. So I thought this research was amazing. I loved it because it really showed like how much our relationships add to our lives. And when we have good relationships, it's like, yeah, I can do this. I can do anything. It doesn't matter. Like just having someone with you and knowing we're in this together, this person has my back, I'm not alone. It gives you such a position of strength and allows you to accomplish so much more than you can accomplish on your own. So they had another similar study where they were trying to assess how relationships influence people's kind of perceptions of how difficult life is. And they did this study with students where they asked students to write about how their day was yesterday or some previous experience. And then they asked them to write about how they were feeling, so to report how they felt about themselves. And then they measured their physical stress by taking saliva swabs. So they did this 4 times a day. And what they found is that some students they allowed them to have a friend with them while they were going through the experiment, and some students couldn't have a best friend with them. And so the students who had their best friend with them, now going through experiments are relatively stressful anyway, like it's out of the norm and people are in your mouth and they're asking you all these questions. So it does tend to increase your stress level. But the people who went through that stressful experience with a friend weren't stressed. They were much less stressed than the people who went through that experience without a friend. And the people who went through that experience with a friend also reported just feeling better about themselves in a global sense. They just felt more competent and thought of themselves more highly, as opposed to the people who went through this study without a friend. So this really made me think about what difference it makes to have, perhaps you're having a medical procedure, to just have your friend with you, just come with you to the doctor's office or be in the room with you or sit with you when you have to do something that's really difficult. Your friend isn't doing it for you, but just their presence lends such a strength to you, and you feel stronger, you feel better about yourself, and you're also able to perform better. So you have less stress in that situation. And it just reminded me of how important friendships are in helping us to deal with stress. Life is filled with stressful moments and situations that we can't avoid, but we can equip ourselves so that we can deal with those stressful situations better. And having a friend present with you is like super immune boost to those stressful situations. They also had the study where they measured how people dealt with psychological stress in terms of losing a partner. So in this study, they looked at people who later on in their lives, so late in their years, they lost a spouse, either through divorce or through widowhood. Their spouse died. And they looked at the impact of that on their lives. Now, all the research shows, in general, both of these events, the death of a spouse or divorce, very stressful, very traumatic events, have big impacts on people in terms of increasing rates of depression, increasing rates of physical illness, all of that. But the people who reported having strong friends present in their lives, we didn't see that. What we saw is that they were less likely to report being depressed than the people who didn't, who went through this stressful situation without great friends in their lives. And they also were in better health. So they reported their medical examinations came back where they were in better physical health, and they had less sick days throughout the entire year. And so having friends with us and going through very difficult, stressful parts of life actually makes us better able to manage and handle those situations. Now, this is where I think it really gets exciting. I want to share with you research that shows how being around, physically near happy people actually makes us happier. So happiness is contagious. And it's not just happiness that's contagious. All emotions are contagious. So there's a theory that says we have what's equivalent of an emotional Wi-Fi, where we're constantly projecting our emotions, and other people can catch our emotions, like you can catch a common cold. But the great thing about this is it's not just for negative emotions. You know, you walk in a place and somebody kind of has a funky attitude, and then you start feeling some kind of way. But you can also reverse that dynamic. So when you walk in a place happy, you increase other people's happiness and the likelihood that they will be happy as well. So in Framingham, UK, in the UK, they had this town where they did the studies, the Framingham study, and they have over 5,000 people, and it's a longitudinal study. So they've been following them for over 20 years. And what they wanted to figure out is if changes in one person's happiness influence the happiness of the people around them. So in the study, you can see they do this network analysis of who's connected to who and how those people are feeling. And you can see actual clusters of happiness. It's like flowers, like they're different colors. And you can see, oh, these are the groups of people that are happy. There are also clusters of unhappiness as well, because as I said, our emotions are contagious. But it's not just that happy people are attracted to other happy people and they get together and form a happiness bubble. It's that you getting happy increases the likelihood that someone who's interacting with you will also become happy. So your happiness is contagious. And get this, it's been shown to influence happiness of others with 3 degrees of separation. So that means me getting happier increases the happiness of my friend and the happiness of my friend's friend, right? Somebody that I'm not even directly interacting with. But that's how powerful emotions are. And my increase in happiness can have a ripple effect that extends to a 3rd degree of separation. In the study, they found that being physically close, surrounded by people who are happier, increases your happiness. So having a friend live within a mile of you actually increases your happiness by 25%. 25%. So you're 25% more happy having a friend live physically close by. And we know that once you are happier, then it increases the likelihood that those who are interacting with you are going to be happier at a future date. So this 25% boost in happiness that you get from living close to a friend, I know all of you are going to call your friends now like, hey, why don't you move to my town? You know, I just saw a property for sale. It's great. That'd be great if they could move. But you also get that kind of boost of happiness by living near a happy sibling. Granted, I said happy sibling, so maybe all of your siblings aren't the ones you want to live near. But if there's one that's a happy one, try to get as physically close as possible to that sibling and interact with them on a regular basis. It will increase your happiness. And we also get a 25% boost in our happiness by living with a happy and joyful spouse. That is so wonderful, to live with someone who is themselves happy. They wake up happy. I don't know if they do anything differently that makes other people happy, but just being around them is going to make you happier. And even if you're not married and your spouse isn't joyful, living next to a happy neighbor, like literally the person who physically lives next to you, if they're happier, that has also been shown to have a 25% boost in your happiness level. So happiness is something that is contagious, and trying to be around happy people will increase your happiness, and that goes on and on and on. And so that's a wonderful thing. We know that we are 12 times more happy on days where we get to spend 6 to 7 hours that day interacting with our family and friends. And this, I love this statistic because it's what I use to remind my clients and people I talk to about how important downtime is. Not way back when, or when I retire I'll do this. No, right now. There's so many people who don't take vacations, who work throughout the weekends, who are working all day, and it's like actually taking time to step back and unplug and be with your family and friends gives you 12 times more happiness. and it's contagious, right? So then it goes through your circle. So today's a holiday. I hope that you are taking the time to just chill and hang out with your family and hang out with your friends, make yourself happy and make other people happy. And so I'd love to hear from you. Who are some of the people in your life who make you happy, right? It's not necessarily something that they do for you. It's just who they are. They're happy people, and when you are around them, you just start smiling. You're just happier. I know I have an aunt who every time I see her, like, she's smiling, I'm smiling. When I think about I'm going to see her, I start smiling. Like, it's just so wonderful to have her around, and I'd like to be that kind of person for other people as well. So if you know a person and they're just always happy, and when you think about being with them it makes you feel happy, type their name in the box below and let them know, hey, I recognize you're a pretty happy person, and I appreciate that. I appreciate your happiness, and I learned today how you being happy actually even helps me to be happier. So thank you for that. I also would love to give you our happiness challenge for this week, which is focused specifically on relationships. And there are a couple of things that you can do to deepen the quality of the connection in your relationships. Because we know that having relationships makes us happy, but having meaningful interactions in those relationships is what's actually making us happy. Because there are some people who are surrounded by people, but feel very isolated and alone. So it's the quality of the relationship, not the number, that's actually contributing to your happiness. So here's something I'd love to share with you, to have you take on as a challenge for how you can deepen your relationships. I'd like for you to pay attention to how you respond to good news. And I'd like to challenge you to respond to good news from people that you're in relationship with in the right way, in a way that capitalizes on that good news. So let me explain to you what I mean. Most times we don't respond to good news properly. So if someone shares with us good news and it's like, oh, I just got this promotion at my job, we might say something like, well, does that mean you're going to work extra hours? Does that mean you're going to be home late, right? We're already thinking about what possible negative things might come from this quote unquote good news. Or we might respond with indifference, like, okay, yeah, that's nice, I'm glad. But what we want to do the right way is where you get them to focus on the good news and to magnify the good news so that they're reliving their excitement, and their excitement grows as a result of talking with you about it. So it's like, oh, you got that promotion? Great. How did it feel when your boss told you you were promoted? What are you going to do now that you have this promotion? What's exciting for you about this new part of your job? Like, just let them start going off and meditating on how wonderful this news actually is. So it will increase their enjoyment of the positive event. They'll be happier, and they'll also feel more connected to you because they feel like you really get me and you want us to be happy. And so, yeah, it will help to deepen your relationships. So we have a term in that we call that capitalizing on good news. So try to capitalize on good news when people are sharing it. Today, over a meal or something, somebody shares good news with you. Try to respond in a way where you get them to focus on it more and talk more and more about it and get even more excited from talking with you about the good news. So that's the first thing that you can do. The second part of the happiness challenge, something that you can do, you can use with people that you don't even know, right? People that you have relationships with, but just people that you interact with on the street. And this is around taking the time to actually put yourself in the other person's shoes, right? As the Native Americans would say, walk in a person's moccasins. So we have this habit, it's not a good habit, of thinking about our own behavior and explaining away the negative things that we do as the result of something in the situation. but we explain the negative things that other people do as something about them, their kind of core personality. And so in psychology, we refer to this as the fundamental attribution error. So if I'm late or running late, it's because it was such bad traffic, or, my kid just knocked milk over at the last minute, or this person cut me off on the road, right? It's something about the environment. But if you're late and I'm waiting for you, it's because you're inconsiderate, you don't value other people's time, you're selfish, something about you. So the next time somebody cuts you off on the road or does something to you that you would normally judge them and say, oh, well, this is about the kind of person that they are, ask yourself, well, what are the circumstances that might make them act in that way? It's just a question. Okay? Just consider, oh, well, what might make somebody do that? I know I've cut people off on the road before. And I don't think of myself as a rude person. Sometimes I wasn't aware. Sometimes I'm rushing. And so giving other people that benefit of the doubt and not assuming that we know the answer and that we know it's about them. So by doing that, how does that deepen our relationship? One, it helps us to feel like those other people are just like us. And it deepens our connection to people that we know and people that we don't know. But we start to feel like, yeah, we have a common humanity. We have a shared interest. I am connected to something much larger than myself. And that will not only increase your happiness, it will change the way that you respond to other people, and it will increase their happiness, and so on and so on and so on. So I'd love for you to take on those happiness challenges of deepening your relationships, both by capitalizing on the good news that people are sharing with you, and by taking time to ask yourself, whenever you're tempted to judge, what circumstances might contribute to someone acting like that. So those are two things that you can do to increase your happiness today. I also have prepared my Happiness Daily Dozen that I would love to share with you. And that guide has 6 things that you can do every day. It takes just a few minutes. You can get it all done within 10 minutes. But we have science that shows that doing these 6 things will actually increase your happiness, both today and long term. And as I've already shared with you, we know that increasing your happiness increases the happiness of the people around you. So I would love to send this guide to you. I am on a mission to increase the happiness in this world. I'd love for you to partner with me on that. All I need is for you to send to me, inbox me at Life in Focus Coaching with the code word that I shared at the beginning of the session. You send me the code word within the next 48 hours in the inbox. I will send you this Happiness Daily Dozen, and you can get started on doing your happiness exercises and increasing your happiness and increasing the happiness of those people around you. So we know that expanding and deepening our relationships, it increases our happiness. We know that it improves our physical health, and that it increases the happiness of the people in our community, the people who are daily interacting with us. So it is really important, it's not selfish, to focus on what creates joy for you and what makes you happy. It's not selfish to take time and invest energy and thought and attention and money to your own happiness. It is important for you and for those that you love and for our world. So if you've enjoyed this video, please do share the happiness, share it with someone else who can also use some of the principles that we've covered today and start implementing them in their lives. And I just want to thank you for showing up. It's such a pleasure for me to have this time every week where we talk about things that can benefit you and that you can start to apply immediately in your life. This concludes our session on happiness. I have a really exciting new series that I'm going to start next week where we're going to be talking about habits. But if you have ideas of things that you'd like to learn more about in terms of what can help you to create a life and a career that you love, please do type those in the comment box below. I do read through all the comments. I definitely will use your suggestions in terms of planning our future series. And I want to make sure that I'm a valuable resource for you in helping you to create a fabulous life. It's been a pleasure interacting with you today. And my wish for you today is that you have a fabulous, happy Labor Day. Enjoy your time with your family and friends and whoever you're connecting with. And I want to wish you a day and a life that is filled with meaning, purpose, and joy. Have a great day.